This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio
At the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association.
National Rifle Association.
Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Well, guys, that happened quick. That's usually indicative of a show that's going to fly right by, so do yourself a solid and buckle in. We just did, based on how fast that intro came upon us. So welcome in, guys. Yeah, the Car Firearms Group studios lit up for you. CZ microphone fired up here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center. It's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Greg, I'll just run through this quickly because I want to get to John Lott real quick because we've only got him for one segment. It's an important topic. But we are live on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. You can watch us over at X at AAR Mark. You can catch us on Rumble at Armed American Radio. You can watch us on YouTube at Armed American Radio. And you can participate in the chat if you so desire by downloading the Telegram messaging app and searching Armed American Radio Conversation. Greg, did I do that okay?
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right, right? Everything good? We ready to rock and roll?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Dr. John Lott, founder, crimeresearch.org, and also author, More Guns, Less Crime, now in its third edition. John, welcome in, my brother.
Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, and you know how time flies on the show, so I want to jump right into it. Newsweek has a piece out titled Study Praising Armed Civilians Sparks Criticism. Several gun control experts are criticizing a study that found that civilians with gun permits reduce the number of victims killed and injured in active shooting cases more than responding police officers do. The study, done by researchers John R. Lott Jr. and Carlisle E. Moody with the Crime Prevention Research Center, also found that civilians with permits stop attacks more frequently and face a lower risk of being killed or injured than police. Devin Hughes, founder and president of gun violence research organization GVpedia, told Newsweek, the paper is fraud, which I do not use lightly. And then he goes on and talks about how the study defines active shooter incidents differently from the FBI. John, the mic is yours. Take it away, brother.
Well, I mean, we don't. The FBI defines active shooting cases as cases where a gun's fired in public to try to harm somebody else, not part of some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight over drug turf. Anything from one person being shot at and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. And that's the definition that we use in the piece with Carl Moody, who's a professor at William & Mary, professor emeritus. And, and we put all the cases that we have up on the website there so people can check them. We've even had ChatGPT go through for whatever that's worth and check to see whether or not they meet the FBI's definition of active shooting cases. But we didn't spend the millions of dollars that the FBI spent on hiring researchers to go and do it because we don't have that type of budget. But we spent thousands of dollars, and I'm not going to go and claim that we have found every single one, but we found so like the FBI claims over the 11 years from 2014 through 2024 that there are only 14 cases where legally armed civilians stopped one of these active shooting attacks. We think it's 202 cases that were stopped. Rather than 4% of active shooting cases being stopped, we think the number is about 36%. And the other thing is that we've argued, and what I argued when I was at the Department of Justice, was that you have to separate out gun-free zones from other places because you're talking about legally armed civilians stopping these attacks. And in 2024, for example, while the FBI claims that there were 0 cases in the United States where legally armed civilians stopped one of these active shooting attacks, we think it's 48%. And if you separate out gun-free zones, just look at places that they were legally able to carry, we think that they actually stopped 63% of these attacks. So, Devin Hughes is an academic. He's, I don't think he's ever published. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's never published an academic paper in his life. Carl and I have published, I've published over 120 Carl's published dozens of papers. We've published peer-reviewed papers recently. And then he has these quotes. The article has these quotes from Dan Webster from the Bloomberg School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins, who is upset about our use of gun-free zones. Look, all one has to do, and we've tried to make this clear many, many times, is look at the statements and quotes from these mass murderers. I don't know how much more explicit, I mean, the media may want to ignore it, but I don't know how much more explicit you can make these things. These guys explicitly say they target places where they know their victims are unarmed. They want to commit suicide, but they want to get media attention. And they know the more people they kill, the more media attention that they're going to be able to get. And they know if they go to a place where their victims aren't able to defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people and get more media attention. So, it's, as we've argued before, 92% of mass public shootings occur in places where guns are banned. Gun control people want to change the definition of a mass public shooting. They want to include places which are private residences. They want to include gang fights over drug turf and things like that. And as I've said many times, gang fights over drug turf, that's a real problem. It's something to concern one. But the causes and solutions for those are very different than somebody just wanting to go into an area to go and try to kill or injure people that are there. And there's a reason why the FBI in its active shooting definitions excludes places that aren't public venues. And so, and also why they exclude cases involving gangs fighting against each other over things like drug turf. So, if they want to go and argue with the FBI's definition, that's fine. But we follow the FBI's definition, and if they want to go and deal with it, they should go and criticize the FBI.
Yeah, they don't like it. Let me give you a quote here, guys, from Daniel Webster. Again, the piece is Newsweek. It ran ran on the 21st is when it came out. Then again, the title, ladies and gentlemen, should you want to search it and find it for yourself, and I would highly encourage you to do that, is Study Praising Armed Civilians Sparks Criticism. Again, from November 21, just 2 days ago on Newsweek. Daniel Webster had this to say: Lott has promoted with flawed data and logic the idea that the USA has so many mass shootings because we have too many gun-free zones. The solution to Lott's view of the problem is that we need more people walking around with guns, are the ready to, and he says, with guns are the ready, must be a misprint, to jump in and take effective and heroic efforts to save the day. The reality is that such incidents are incredibly rare, even though we live in a country with more guns than people and more armed civilians walking and driving around than has ever been the case. They just simply do not want to talk about the facts that you just laid out. Now, they even refer in Newsweek back to 2022 article in the New Yorker, which we covered with you at the time it came out, that says Lott's findings and methods have generated scathing criticism from prominent academics who have questioned his veracity and exposed flaws in his work. But the critiques have not diminished his stature. Instead, they have fed the conspiracy-oriented mentality of the gun rights movement in the eyes of its adherents, and in the messaging of the gun lobby and trade groups. Attempts to discredit Lott are really attempts to suppress the truth. John, you have about a minute and a half.
Yeah, well, the article in the New Yorker was written by a guy named Michael Spies, who works for Michael Bloomberg's The Trace. It's my understanding he was paid about $150,000 to spend a year trying to go and write up the articles that he had there. And, if Newsweek wants to go and give uncritical coverage to, Michael Bloomberg's The Trace type stuff, I guess it just tells you where they're coming from on that. But, who knows what the deal is, but it's just, I'm not sure what to do about it, but it's
you're doing it right now, John.
They wrote me. I was in the car when they emailed me on Friday afternoon, and I didn't see it until later that evening. They had already run the piece. I wrote the reporter back as soon as I saw the email, but she apparently, had already put the piece out. So
it's possible that they may have updated, because it does. John Arlott and Carlisle E. Moody, in a study, they quote you here. It's possible that they may have updated. I don't know the answer to that. But John, you're doing it. This is how we respond to that, ladies and gentlemen. Please read the piece. Go back and listen to what you just heard from John. Dr. Lott, thank you so much. I'm glad we could squeeze you in here today to get you on here to talk about this very important topic, especially when we can have a little fun at their expense. Ladies and gentlemen, they just don't like the results.
Funny.
They just simply don't like the results. It's that simple, which means it doesn't fit their narrative and their agenda that they're trying to push. Dr. John Lott, crimeresearch.org. John, we'll be back with Paul Markel right after the break, guys.
How much you say?
42 to buy, and it's worth it. Just buy it and get it out of the way. Mics and cameras are live. And you say Paul's good to go, right?
Yep.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And on this Sunday Monstercast, proudly sitting in the Car Firearms Group studios in front of this very, very powerful CZ USA microphone here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. And again, it's all brought to you by the National Rifle Association. You can visit them and all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. Join the National Rifle Association, ladies and gentlemen. It is incredibly important. And as we move through the show today, you'll begin to understand why, if you haven't already figured that out as a fan of Armed American Radio over the last 17 years. Wow, crazy stuff. Paul Markel, student of the gun. Welcome in, brother. We've got you for one segment. Thank you, by the way, because I do want to point out we had you scheduled for 2 segments, but we needed to get John in there, and we appreciate you accommodating us, Paul. Welcome in. Student of the gun, and that is SOTGU.com, ladies and gentlemen. Paul, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm just fantastic. We had some sun here today and getting ready for the winter.
Really? Oh, well, yeah, well, Wyoming. Yeah. It's not unusual for you guys to have snow at this time of year.
Well, there's snow above 8,000, but...
Well, where are you? I'm just curious.
6,500.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's just hope that, well, I know you got wood cut and all that fun stuff. All right. Paul, a couple things I want to run with you on today. We're going to talk about this, ladies and gentlemen, with other guests as well. But a Washington state court recently, just a few days ago, upheld the state's 2023 ban on assault weapons. Washington gun control advocates are celebrating a win after the state's ban on so-called assault weapons was again upheld in court. This was a Thurston County Superior Court judge this month that upheld a 2023 state law, Paul, that, quote, bars the sale, manufacture, distribution, and import of assault weapons. The law defines that term to cover a range of firearms, including certain semi-automatic weapons. The Alliance for Gun Safety or for Gun Responsibility said on a November 19th release that the ruling, ladies and gentlemen, reasserts the state's authority to protect public safety by restricting military-style assault weapons. It's the third time that attempts to upend the law were dismissed. The state's ban is still wholly intact. Paul, we're getting ready to see this again in Virginia. We have cases up now seeking cert at the Supreme Court. When will we be able to put a stop to all of this left-wing gun-grabbing nonsense?
So let me get this right. The state, in opposition to the people, went to the state and asked the other part of the state, the government, asked the government if the government could go ahead and restrict the people's liberty. And the government said yes.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
You've got it in a nutshell. And, Paul, I do want to mention right now, AWR Hawkins is not feeling well, and I would like to know if you'd like to stay for another segment or possibly 2 with me. Can you do that?
Okay, sure.
All right, good deal. Yeah, so, yes, that is exactly what happened. Again.
So the tyrannical, one branch of the tyrannical state went to a separate branch of the tyrannical state and said, hey, can we take away the constitutionally affirmed rights of the people? And the other branch said, sure, go ahead. Do we not have a supremacy clause? Is the Constitution of the United States not? So can the state of Washington, for instance, take away the rights of women to vote?
Well, apparently. Now, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And, guys, I'm glad we have Paul for more time. We don't have to rush through this, so we can kind of take a deeper dive into some of these conversations with him. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to take you back to 2010, the McDonald v. Chicago decision, which we won at the Supreme Court, ladies and gentlemen. That's one of the trifecta that we've won at SCOTUS, the first one being, of course, the Heller D.C. in 2008, McDonald in 2010, and Bruin just a couple years ago. And here's what's important about the McDonald decision, because it was the McDonald decision, and Gottlieb will tell us this. He has before on this program many times. It was the McDonald decision that incorporated the Second Amendment through the 14th Amendment to the what, Paul? The states. Okay? Which is why it is critical we get the Supreme Court to answer one of these cases that we have in front of them, which now looks like it might be the Connecticut case, which I'm hopeful, but we also have another one in Illinois. It's decisions like this, Paul, that are a smack to the face of the McDonald decision, yet again, by the left, which is why it is so important we get one of these cases to SCOTUS, and I'm hopeful that that happens this term.
Well, we're back in this position again where the people who aren't violating laws are not going to be affected by this. The people who are going to be affected by it are not the ones walking into schools, churches, shopping malls, or whatever, committing mass murders. And as long as we continue to accept the lies of the left, that what they're doing is they're doing this for, quote, safety of the people, then we're still going to live in a state of tyranny. Now, my question to you is, in the state of Washington, when they wrote this law, did they exempt employees of the state
of course they
from
did.
The law?
Of course they did. Law enforcement itself,
you're living in a state of tyranny. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot get around it. If the government enacts laws and apply them to the people and exempts itself from those laws, that is the definition of tyrannical behavior. And the fact that people just get up every day and they're like, whatever,
Yeah.
What's on TikTok?
You are right. So let's take a look at this. The case, and we've talked about this case before, ladies and gentlemen. You might not remember it, but it was Moses Lake firearms dealer Guardian Arms, which filed the suit against the state over claims that the law violated the state's constitution's protections on the right to bear arms. That would be Washington State's. Now, hence, go back to what I just mentioned about the McDonald case, which requires through the 14th Amendment that the Second Amendment also apply to the states. He was not immediately able to reach the Silent Majority Foundation, which said it represented Guardian Arms in the matter, for comment on November 19. But in an email Friday afternoon, the director of operations, Rob Waite, said the foundation is disappointed in the ruling and contemplating next steps. Here's what he said. We think this decision needs to be appealed because the words of the Washington Constitution, which provide that the right to bear arms shall not be impaired, must mean something. The court's decision and its interpretation of some case law stand for the proposition that the fundamental right to bear arms is merely a privilege subject to reasonable regulation by the legislature. And I want to point out, Paul, Washington has a complete list of guns that they ban. We tend to default to, the AR-15 or the AK-47. Regardless, we tend to default to that AR-15 style rifle. But ladies and gentlemen, it goes far beyond that, Paul, and it is tyrannical. And I'm hopeful, and this is why when SCOTUS takes one of these cases, all of this gets slapped down, because I'll quote Gottlieb, we get the case, we win the case. Paul, we're going to get ready to take a break here, so let me just run through this real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Markel, student of the gun, SOTGU.com. You can take training there on the site. Use the promo code AAR, get 15% off immediately to take some online courses from the professor himself at Student of the Gun University. Again, it's SOTGU.com, and that promo code is obvious, AAR. It's our promo code for most everything that we do. When we come back, we're going to cover some of A.W.R. Hawkins' writings in honor of A.W.R. not feeling well. And, well, that'll just foster more conversation as we blow through Hour 1 on Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. We're well underway with Paul Markel, student of the gun, kind enough to stick around with us for a little bit. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast from the Car Firearms Group Studios continues right after this. Don't go away.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Walters here, as you just heard from Andy Hoosier, the voice of raison, the voice of reason, KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker. You got a great one there, man. We love our Andy Hoosier, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's broadcast with him. He's a regular guest on Mondays, because both he and I watched the newly released Age of Disclosure UAP movie documentary that came out. And ladies and gentlemen, it's quite fascinating. It's running over on Amazon Prime, and Andy will have an awful lot to say about that. It's going to be a really fun, at least opening segment with Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason, tomorrow. You don't want to miss it, so make sure to tune in. Welcome back, guys. Please visit all of our great sponsors and partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com or .org. Take your pick. We got them both covered for you. armedamericanradio.com. Pick up some barrel buddies. Do some shopping at Bud's Gun Shop. It's a perfect time of the year to hit all of our great partners. All of them can be found at armedamericanradio.com. Paul Markel, student of the gun, welcome back in. Thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate that much, Paul.
Yes, sir. So when it comes whether it's Washington, Connecticut, whatever, fill in the blank, it all comes down to us, and it literally comes down to the people. And unfortunately, what we've allowed ourselves to fall into, far too many people, is that the firearm is some type of a sporting implement. If you look at your rifle, pistol, shotgun as a sporting implement, right, or something that you collect or whatever, that's fine. But if you don't first look at your rifle and say that is an instrument of liberty, then your mindset is not where it should be. Because if every American gun owner looked at their guns as instruments of liberty, and then when the tyrants in their state capitals decided, oh, you can't have that, we just decided. A bunch of us went into a room and we decided you're not allowed to have that anymore. That wouldn't just be an inconvenience. It would be an attack against liberty. And that's how it needs to be viewed. It needs to be viewed as a direct attack against liberty. But unfortunately, we've allowed ourselves to fall into this comfortable slave status where we look at it, well, it's an inconvenience. It's not an inconvenience.
Now, no, let me stop you. Because again, glad you brought it up. Because Democrats view an inconvenience as being okay. They're okay with a waiting period of 10 days, some even 30 days. Some would be happy with a waiting period of 100 days. As long as they get their gun, they're okay. I have my gun. I don't mind waiting if it means I stop a crime or a shooting because I waited. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, who's waiting? People who are not committing crimes. That's who's waiting. That's who's impacted. No gun control law has ever impacted a criminal, ever. Not one time, ever. Now, having said that, when you consider that a liberal views this as, hey, because I know a lot of liberal gun owners, Paul, but every single one of them, in every single instance, every single one of them are okay with getting a background check, with waiting however many days, with paying fees, with doing what they do because they feel that, what it is. And again, that's the key word there. They feel. They don't think. They feel. They don't look at that implement as an implement of freedom, as you just pointed out. And I want to make this clear. Owning a firearm is the ultimate expression of your freedom, ladies and gentlemen, particularly here in America, the ultimate expression of your freedom. If that's taken away, think about what's taken away. The ultimate expression of your freedom, as you just laid out, Paul. Why don't people get it?
Particularly here in America. It's only here in America.
Why don't people get it?
We're the only nation on planet Earth where a firearm is an instrument of liberty.
Truly,
everywhere else,
an instrument of liberty.
It's a very expensive privilege. And when you talk it's funny. The same liberal people are like, well, I think a background check is fine, and they want to be the reasonable people in the room, so they're like, well, we need to have reasonable restrictions and da da da. And you say, okay, so people should have to prove that they're a citizen before they can vote for president, right?
Well, no, that's racist, Paul.
Right. And they're like, like, whoa. So you want to restrict the liberty of the citizen? Because nowhere in the bill, where in the Bill of Rights does it say the word vote?
No, it doesn't.
unaffiliated.
Well, that's right. It doesn't. Bring that up to a liberal. Say, there's no constitutionally guaranteed right to vote.
When did women get the vote?
But they pretend that there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There had to be an amendment.
Right. In the third, was it the? Yeah, it was an amendment. That's the only place. Like in the first 10, the word vote doesn't appear in the first 10. It's not until later on. But if we go with the Biden defense that no amendment is absolute, then okay, cool. We don't have to pay federal government income tax anymore, do we?
Greg, do you have that drop from Biden handy by any chance?
Well,
hold on, Paul. Greg, do you have that?
One sec.
That's a
Yeah,
okay.
Take a listen to this because what you just quoted, we've got Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, saying this, and when Greg pulls it up, we'll go there. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, he actually said that. You got it, Greg?
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
Wait, say that again?
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
One more time, Joe Biden?
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
And one more time, Joe
No
Biden.
amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
Yeah, he made that very clear.
Yeah.
He made that very
No
clear on
amendment
more
to
than
the
one occasion.
Constitution is absolute.
He's going to keep playing that under us the whole time.
So in Wyoming, for instance, if the Wyoming state legislature went into session, they could come out and say, you know what, we've decided that women are not allowed to vote in presidential elections. They can vote in other elections. We're not completely, what we're doing is we're just instituting a reasonable restriction. We're not completely banning women from voting. They can vote in municipal elections and every other year in state elections. We're just saying that they can't vote in presidential elections. And certainly that's reasonable, right? We're not taking their rights away completely.
Well,
now,
wait a minute. Wait a minute. We had a president say that, Greg, didn't we again? Where's Biden? Let's play him again.
One sec.
No amendment to the Constitution.
He's asleep.
Absolute.
We had to wake him up. And
No
again,
amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
there you go.
Yeah.
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
Can we bring slavery back?
So on one hand, yeah, I mean, the state of Utah, if they wanted to, they're like, well, we're going to bring back indentured servitude.
Well, because no amendment to the Constitution.
No, you can't do that. Well, Constitution's absolute. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you get it. You understand
People,
it. You heard it.
Yep.
All right, let me move on. There's a couple other things I want to cover with you,
You get
Paul.
the government you will tolerate. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I like that. You get the government you will tolerate. That's true. Look at all the blue states. Let's talk about some Christmas tree lighting ceremonies. It's a happy time of year. I don't know about your house, ladies and gentlemen, but my wife's been decorating for Christmas like crazy. Christmas lights are on at the ranch now. All right, it's that time of year, right? It's that time of year. And, well, Democrat-run Chicago had a Christmas tree lighting ceremony. 9 people were shot downtown right after the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. But wait, it gets better.
I don't believe it. The mayor said that there is not a crime problem in Chicago.
9 people were shot, one of them fatally, in 2 different incidents following the lighting of the downtown Christmas tree Friday night in Democrat-run Chicago. NBC Chicago noted that the first of the shootings occurred along North State Street near East Madison at 9:50. 7 people were wounded amid the gunfire. A 14-year-old boy was wounded in the stomach. He's listed in good condition. A 15-year-old boy and a 17-year-old boy each sustained a wound in the left thigh and are both reportedly in good condition. Now, we've got 30 seconds, so I'll go to the break with this. Well, they have Christmas is being celebrated everywhere. And not just in Chicago was there a tree lighting ceremony, but there was also 4 injured in a shooting at North Carolina Christmas tree lighting ceremony. 4 people were wounded when 2 suspects began shooting at each other during a Christmas tree lighting ceremony at around 7:30 p.m. On Friday night. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this was Concord, North Carolina. Greg, you did some research for us during the segment, and their mayor Dutch. Apparently he's unaffiliated. I'd always thought Concord was a fairly, that's the home of NASCAR there. Thought it was a fairly conservative area. When we come back, we'll talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monstercast continues right after the break. Guys, we're almost at 30 seconds. Back at you in
30?
a second. There it is. See? Do this long enough, you figure that stuff out. Especially when you have a producer in your ear and you say, is it almost 30? And he says, almost. So I cheated. I admit that.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Indeed. Welcome back. Attorneysonretainer.us. Great sponsor of Armed American Radios. And I have my Attorneys on Retainer card sitting right here. I'm going to forego going into a lengthy read on this, live read on this, because we only have Paul for one more segment. But Joey Hamby from Attorneys on Retainer, great self-defense attorney who became a fan favorite last time he was on. He's wonderful. And we're going to have a fascinating conversation with him about a couple of, well, quote-unquote self-defense cases that went bad. And I'll explain that when we come back with Joey at the top of next hour. He'll be joining us at 6 minutes after, coming up in the next segment. But you can visit attorneysonretainer.us and do like I do and put this card in your wallet. We're going to save you $50 when you do that, and it's only $35 a month. Joey will tell us more about that, but we have a lot to go over with him. It's always fascinating talking to the attorneys on the program, so we're looking forward to that. We've got him for a solid hour. So get your snacks now, okay, because it's going to be a solid, great hour. Paul Markel, student of the gun, welcome back, brother. So, you know, I don't care what the political makeup is in Concord, North Carolina. I'd be willing to bet money it was Democrats shooting each other, because it's usually the case. But, you know, Merry Christmas, Paul. Chicago, North Carolina, you know, put yourself in any city across this country.
Is right outside of Charlotte.
It is right outside of Charlotte. It's the home
It's
of
adjacent.
NASCAR.
It's adjacent to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's likely where
going
the
back
trouble
to
came
Chicago,
from.
what
Go ahead.
What kind of gun did that gentleman use to set that woman on fire on the subway train? Oh, that's right. He didn't use a gun, which is why the media is ignoring it. How many times was he arrested? 47, 74? I'm being a little dyslexic on that.
What Paul is talking
72
times. 72 times.
72, sorry.
That's okay. Give or take 2.
Yeah, give or take 2 arrests, you know.
Yeah. That doesn't really matter at this point.
The same people that would tell you that it's not your job, that's why we have the courts, that's why we have the police, doesn't seem like they're doing a great job. Does it seem like it to you?
No, and let me tell you,
the courts are doing a great job.
Let me tell you how I know they're not doing a good job. Here's the Chicago numbers right now as we know them. The demonized tally in Chi-Town, Chirac, Chicago, Democrat run for over a century. 4 killed, 20 wounded. That's as of 6 a.m. I can promise you, after 11 p.m. Eastern Time or midnight Central Time, 1 a.m. Eastern, that number will update for the weekend. I can promise you that. Shot and killed year-to-date in Chicago right now, 336. Shot and wounded, 1,477. Total shot in Democrat-controlled Chicago, 1,813, for a total of 399 homicides. So if you subtract the 336 from 399, go ahead.
Mark, the Weight Watchers spokesperson, Jolly Pritzker, didn't you tell the CNN reporter that President Trump was blowing it out of proportion, or words to that effect, that it's not that violent and he needs to leave Chicago alone because they have it under control?
Well, understand what a Democrat like Pritzker means by under control. We're holding shootings under 30 every weekend, President Trump, or at 30. Because here's the average. 2024 for this weekend, 10 wounded, 4 killed. 2023 for this weekend, 12 wounded, 2 killed. In 2022, 33 wounded. Now we're getting into COVID years. 2021, 39 wounded, 8 killed. 2020, 46 wounded, 7 killed. So you see, they claim that the number of shootings and gun violence is decreasing, only because they're holding at post-COVID numbers. And here's the thing, guys. Again, 20 wounded, 4 killed. That's as of 6 a.m. this morning. That number will rise before this show is over today. But that's the rationale, Paul. You're right. That's what Pritzker is doing. And keep in mind, they're also not reporting all violent crime. We found out, John Lott found out, that they were underreporting major cities across the country, guys, run by Democrats, imagine that, by 4.7%. And it took the FBI after a Biden 4 years to come out and finally admit that, Paul. So,
well, if the numbers aren't in your favor, just lie.
Well, yeah. Just don't report them. And don't think for 2 seconds, folks, that there's not a meeting of Democrats in these big Democrat-run cities saying, let's not report these crimes. We want to make it appear, because we have an election coming up, we want to make it appear that crime is dropping. Well, folks know that crime's not dropping. That's okay. They won't believe their lying eyes, because the mainstream media is going to, do our bidding for us and tell them one thing, and they're going to scratch their head. Some of them will, but when they hear it over and over and over again, well, they'll come around. You know why, ladies and gentlemen? Because you have come around all these years. Too many of us have fallen for this stuff, Paul. That's why they get away with it, brother.
Oh, that's right. You get the government that you're willing to tolerate. And in New York and in Chicago and in Washington State et al., they're willing to tolerate criminal behavior on the part of their government because they don't want to. You're going back to this. They don't want to be uncomfortable. Why is California the way it is? Because the people who live in California don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Let's talk about Democrats real quick, because we can with the time that we have left. I have to go here because this clown is my sitting senator, Raphael Warnock. AWR's got a piece titled, and I love this, Report, Guns for Me But Not for Thee. Senator Warnock spent $360,000 on private security in 9 months, using an armed security detail, ladies and gentlemen, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Raphael Warnock, Democrat, who works every single day diligently with Murphy and the rest of them to take your guns. But a politician, no, he's more important than you are. Paul, it's incredulous, man.
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
sickening. Well, yeah, go ahead. I'll let you take this to them.
That seems $300,000 seems kind of exorbitant over a period of 9 months. But who am I? I'm just a taxpayer, and that goes back to what you and I discussed in private on Friday. Is that your Washington States, your Connecticut's, your New Yorks, and so on and so forth, the people who live there, who are listening to you right now and are angry and frustrated and so forth, you are living under a state of taxation without representation. They will take your money, and they will use your money to enslave you.
They will use your money against you, ladies and gentlemen. And yes. I do want to point out that on February 15, 2022, Axios, not a right-wing publication at all by any stretch, released figures showing how much congressional members spent on personal security in 2021, Paul. Warnock outspent all other congressional members listed, shelling out over $605,000 for security during that year alone, and remains, ladies and gentlemen, one of the strongest proponents of restricting Second Amendment rights for all Americans, except him and his colleagues. Paul, where can people find you? Use the promo code and all that fun stuff. We're getting ready to close the hour. And I thank you.
Yes, I would love for you to go to SOTGU, short for Student of the Gun University. Start training today. Use the promo code AAR. Get 15% off your tuition.
It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. SOTGU.com, Student of the Gun University. Paul Markel, the professor. We love you. We're going to talk to you this week on Friday. We always do. And we're glad you could stick with us for a couple of extra segments on very, very short notice, really spontaneously live, when we found out that AWR couldn't make it at the last moment. So thank you, Paul Markel. Ladies and gentlemen, support Paul and all of his efforts. Buy some of his books. You can catch it all at SOTGU.com. When we come back, Joey Hamby, attorneys on retainer. Oh, wait till you hear this hour. It's going to be explosive. It always is when we have the attorneys on. 6 minutes after. Don't go away. We'll be back on the flip side.
Walters. Presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association. On the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys, we'll be back at 6 minutes after the hour. We're going to take a quick top of the hour break here in the studio. 6 minutes after the top of the hour, Joey Hamby from Attorneys on Retainer will be here, and we're going to talk about 3 specific cases. And I think you'll find them fascinating, and they always open up to more discussion when we talk about using a gun for self-defense. What can actually happen to you? And in these are real cases that just occurred. And I'm going to bet you that the homeowners felt that they were doing everything right, except both homeowners in the cases we're going to be talking about were charged with crimes that will put them away for a very, very, very long time. And we'll talk with Joey about these. And could it be that the charges are right? That's where we're going to go. So pay very careful attention to the next hour coming up. If you carry a firearm, please listen to what the attorneys have to say, okay? These are self-defense experts. And we're looking forward to this conversation. It's always fun to have a self-defense expert attorneys on. We'll be back with them at 6 minutes after the hour. Mics are up. Cameras up. Welcome back, guys. Talking with Joey Hamby from Attorneys on Retainer. Enjoy this hour. It's going to be a good, and it always is with attorneys. Woo!
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're neck deep in it now. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast is well underway. If you are joining us for the this is your first hour with us, welcome aboard. If you're rejoining us, welcome back. Great to have you here in the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day, 6 days a week. And on this Monster Cast, it's in the CZ studios here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. And, of course, it's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association and all of our great sponsors. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com or .org. Please visit them if you want to watch or listen to the show. You can do that over there. We are live on Facebook for you. If you want to watch us on Facebook, welcome in. If you are, please get engaged. Subscribe. Well, subscribe. You can subscribe to us over there too, but we'd love it if you would like us. Help us get back up over 100,000. Our YouTube count is getting close to 1,000 now, and that's a big step, ladies and gentlemen, considering that they kind of blackballed us for a long time, and for that matter, they just suspended us a couple weeks ago because I built a goat gun, toy gun, during one of my breaks during the Daily Show, and they suspended me because I built a toy gun live on the air. I guess you can't do it live, so it would have had to have been pre-taped, but they brought us right back, so we're appreciative of that. Greg in Dallas, Texas, I'll let you take it away from here, and then we'll go to our guest, and this is going to be a great hour, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go to our guest, Joey Hamby, as soon as we get done with Greg doing his spiel. Go for it, Greg.
Yeah, sure. One of those other places is definitely YouTube. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Same search over on Rumble. If you'd like to find us on X, it's at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And lastly, to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
And that'll do it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Joey Hamby, Attorneys on Retainer. Joey, it's so fun talking with you. I'm so glad you're here with us for the hour. Great to have you back with us, my friend. How are you today?
Mark, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners again. Although I'm a little worried right now, I have a goat gun in my office. I might get banned.
Well, I'm not going to show. I've got a whole collection of them right over here in the studio, right above all my little Axe Heaven mini guitars, which I guess, they might even ban you for building a guitar. I don't know. But, yeah, they suspended me because I built a toy gun during the break just to show listeners and viewers how easy and fun it is to do. And, well, lo and behold. And what I found interesting, Joey, was Greg and I went to YouTube, and they've got millions of views of them building their guns and others. Yeah, it was just because we did it live. And I guess their fact checkers don't know, and I guess their algorithms can't figure it out, but they suspended us until they realized what was going on. But nonetheless, we're back over there, and like I said, we're appreciative of it, So let's get started here. Attorneys on Retainer. Why don't you tell everybody about the firm first, then we'll get cracking.
Sure, a couple of things. First of all, before I start about Attorneys on Retainer, which I am a huge fan of course, I'm a member. But before that, I want to just give a shout out one of your other sponsors, the NRA. I know they've taken a lot of flack from a lot of different folks, but I've been a life member of NRA since 1985, I want to say, maybe a little before that, when I was a junior life member, and you couldn't be a member before you were 18 years old. Mm-hmm. I've been a gun owner and an enthusiast, a shooter, a hunter, since literally I was big enough to hold a firearm. I can remember my father taking me out to the desert here in Arizona at a very, very early age, shooting pistols and then dove hunting, and then it was over after that. So I just want to give a shout out to the folks at the NRA. I know they've been going through some tough times, and I hope they continue to fight for our freedoms. But on to Attorneys on Retainer, just a tremendous, tremendous program. I would tell everybody, please go to our website, attorneysonretainer.us. check it out. We have just rolled out a new benefit that we have added on. Mark Victor, our founding partner, said, I want to do something for our members that the folks can really appreciate, which is if you look at any of the really large cases that you've seen, Kyle Rittenhouse, Daniel Penny, Alec Baldwin even, look at those folks. When they're in trial or when they're dealing with the government, they don't have one attorney or even two attorneys. They have multiple attorneys working their cases. And one of the things we've done at AOR is say, if you are going to go to trial, if you're faced with a felony charge and you are going to go to trial and you're an AOR member, you're not going to have one attorney. You're not going to have two attorneys. You're not going to have three attorneys. We're going to make sure that you have 4 attorneys in trial. We can talk about that more later and the importance of that, but just understand when you are in trial and you are fighting for your life and you're funding the government to prosecute you, quite frankly, we're going to be there with you and we're going to be fighting for your rights. We're going to be fighting for your freedom, and we're not going to be alone. We're going to have a whole team of folks fighting for you with AOR. So I just want to give a shout out to that. Folks, please go to our YouTube channel, Attorneys on Retainer, subscribe. We would really appreciate that. And you're going to see a lot of information there, some very high profile cases of self-defense that could have gone wrong that went right instead because they had our services.
Yeah, and the production over there is fantastic. And guys, I've been referring to this on the Daily Show as a dream team, right? You're going to have a dream. You got your own dream team. And I got to point out, guys, it's only $35 a month for a dream team of attorneys.
Yes.
No matter what your attorneys have to do, your price stays at your monthly fee, period. No matter what kind of forensic stuff, expert witnesses that can cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, $35 a month. All right, let's jump on this because we've got some cases here that I say went wrong. And I want people, there's a reason I'm highlighting these, Joey, and I sent you the links. I know you've looked at these, but I'm going to just read the headlines for you guys. This was a Fox report from October 25. I've been kind of sitting on this. I think we spoke about it on the Daily Show. Carjacking victim arrested. Carjacking victim arrested after allegedly shooting boy breaking into his car during Atlanta confrontation. Guy's name is Yoshe Carter, Joey. He was 51 years old, and he was booked into the Fulton County Jail after confronting a burglar. Now, let's just start with this. Fulton County is a Democrat-run stench pile inside a very red state, and they do not respect your Second Amendment rights. They have been doing everything possible in their power to infringe on our rights in the state of Georgia, and God bless Georgia Carry, now known as GA2A.org, for fighting these clowns in court and beating them back for the most part. But, Joey, they will do everything in their power to try to take your rights away from you, and that means lock your tail up. Now, he was arrested after shooting a boy who was breaking into his car. They found a boy who was under the age of 18 with a gunshot wound to his foot. They said the boy admitted he was shot after breaking into a car. He was taken to Children's Hospital and is expected to survive, but Yoshe Carter was arrested. What do we need to know about this, Joey?
So there's just a large number of issues in this article, and I would recommend people, research this and look at it on their own. But the first thing I want to point out, if you scroll down on the article just a little bit, you're going to find where it says Yoshe Carter, who owns the cars, told authorities the shooting happened when he confronted the boy. So let's just start with that. Please, folks, when you are being accused of a crime and when you use a firearm in self-defense, you are going to be accused of crime. Even if you are in the friendliest jurisdiction that you can think of, as a shooter, you are going to be looked at as the potential criminal here. That's just a starting point that folks need to realize. And those rules change. I don't care what you think. I don't care how you were brought up. I know I was brought up to say, hey, the police are our friends. They're going to be there to help us. And it all changes when you're in this environment. Okay, when you have discharged a firearm and struck another human being, you are immediately viewed as the criminal, as the aggressor, as the bad person. And all sorts of things kick in at that point. So, number one, please, please, please do not talk with the authorities at that point. You're going to say very nicely and very politely, thank you very much, officer, or thank you very much, detective. I'm not talking with you. I want my attorney. And if you're an AOR member, you're going to have already had us on the phone, and I might actually be talking with law enforcement on your behalf, as I have done in multiple instances. In instances where there's an individual who's unfortunately dead on the ground, and I'm speaking with law enforcement at that moment to make sure my client's rights are upheld. Let me tell you this. I can tell you just from reading this short article where poor Mr. Carter tells folks that this happened when I confronted the boy. Just that statement alone is enough to give you trouble in Georgia, and particularly in a very, very blue county, as you mentioned, Mark. This is not helpful.
All right, we're getting ready to take a break, and I want to head to the break with this. I'll just throw this out here for you, Joey. But he was later, ladies and gentlemen, arrested and charged with aggravated assault. In the state of Georgia, an aggravated assault conviction carries 20 years. 20 years. With no parole, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they go after. When we come back, we're going to continue this fascinating conversation with Joey Hamby, a self-defense attorney at Attorneys on Retainer. AttorneysOnRetainer.us. The code is AAR. Back right after this. Camera's back up.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. NRA.org. Use the promo code AAR and join us, please. Look, just do it for a year, okay? And many of you have. Many of you have. Hundreds and hundreds of you have, and we appreciate it very much. 1 year, $35, okay? 1 year, $35. Get in the pool with us. The water is warm, and we need your help. Throughout the roundtable, we're going to talk about what I now know is getting ready to happen in Virginia. We knew it anyway, but we have some more specifics, and we'll go into greater detail. But it's why you need to be a member of the National Rifle Association, and you heard our guest, Joey Hamby, talking about that as well. So please visit them, nra.org/AAR, and you can find them and all of our great sponsors at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. We're in the Car Firearms Group studios, for crying out loud. I have to fight my son for my new car gun because he's every time I turn around, he's got it in his hip pocket. He's got it in a crossbreed, and I have to fight it. But all of our great partners have great products, and this time of year, you can just visit them all and just get all your shopping done just by visiting armedamericanradio.com. Joey Hamby, attorneys on retainer, welcome back. I have to throw a question at you, Joey. You and I have talked, not just on air, but we've talked privately, in person, we've talked on the phone. And one of the questions that comes to my mind as I'm listening to you talk about it, I'm thinking about watching cop shows, right? I just watched one the other day. Well, in fact, yesterday, over the weekend.
Sure.
And you hear this, he's lawyered up, he's guilty, he's already lawyered up. So does it make you appear to law enforcement as adversarial, as that you've lawyered up in a situation like this, because they try to make it look that way? Just come in and talk to us. We can help you out. We want to make sure we got your side of the story. That's a flat out no, right?
Absolutely. A couple things. Let me just give a little bit of background here, first of all. So first of all, I have many, many friends in law enforcement. I have friends who are prosecutors, judges, defense attorneys, and the good folks in law enforcement are doing a very, very tough job. On the other hand, there are good people and bad people in law enforcement, just like everywhere else. And the people in law enforcement, they have a job to do, and they walk into these situations many times believing they know what the reality is. And there's a thing called confirmation bias, and unfortunately, law enforcement officers are very susceptible to that, just like other folks. And they walk in, and they look at the information they get, and they say to themselves, I've seen this movie. I know how this ends. I know who the good guy is. I know who the bad guy is. And they feel justified many times in using the tactics they've been trained in to try to reach the result that they believe is right. And maybe they're right, and maybe they're not. But what I can tell you is this. You should have the same rights, and you should get the same treatment that law enforcement officers get. And in many states, when law enforcement officers are involved in a shooting or involved in something that could end up with them looking at charges or discipline, the first thing they do is they get their lawyer. And if they're a member of a union or a group of any other sort where they have an attorney, their attorney will actually come to the scene and walk through the scene with them. Now, as a criminal defense attorney, I never get that opportunity until way after the fact. But police officers will tell one another, if they're under investigation, just shut up, just wait till your attorney gets here. You have, as a citizen, every bit of the same rights as those guys do. And I'm going to tell you, the smart officers will recognize that and will say, okay, they may be unhappy, and on these shows, a lot of times I think they're posturing for the camera like other folks. But the fact that you're getting an attorney doesn't mean that you're guilty. It means that you're not stupid. It means they can't manipulate you, and so they get a little bit unhappy about that.
All right, now you said they can't manipulate you.
Don't fall into that trap.
Yeah, let me stop you quickly because yes. I want to focus on, you said they can't manipulate you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been many years, but this conversation is now, I have a book over here that I don't think I'm supposed to have, but it's a police training manual. And I'm going to tell you now, ladies and gentlemen, I've quoted from that before. Law enforcement is trained to screw you out of your Fourth Amendment rights. And if you don't believe me, We don't have time to go into this with you now, Joey, but that's why cops engage you in conversation that you are not responsible for having at a traffic stop, for example. Where are you going? Where are you coming from? The purpose of the traffic stop, ladies and gentlemen, is to give you a ticket for whatever you were doing. And if you answer the question, do you know why I stopped you today? Yeah, I was speeding. You're done. Okay? The same rules apply, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Just keep that in the back of your mind, and I'll frame it with this, and then we'll go to another case, Joey. But the fact of the matter is, when you're read your Miranda rights, anything you say can and will be used against you. They mean that. That's not a joke, folks. Is it, Joey, or am I just missing something here?
Yes. It is not a joke. The one thing that you can say that they cannot use against you is I want my attorney.
Boom.
And I'm not talking with you. They are not allowed to use your constitutional rights to incriminate you. So the fact that you requested an attorney, I've been in many, many, many trials. And whenever my client has requested an attorney in the interrogation interview, in the recorded interview, and my client's requested an attorney, that part is always cut out. It's never put in front of the jury. They're never allowed to see that. And so that is never something that can be used against you. And before you jump on to the next case, Mark, because I know you want to, I want to come back to this one.
Please do.
We just talked about poor Mr. Carter, because I want to make a point here for you. You are very educated. You are very astute. You are a smart gun owner. But I'm going to bet you that there are things about this case where you would get wrong on the law, even though this is in your stomping grounds. And poor Mr. Carter, I'm sure, got this wrong because he didn't know that he should just shut up and not talk with law enforcement. So let me just ask you, Mark, you know that you're allowed to defend yourself if you feel that your life is at risk. It's an imminent risk. You're allowed to defend yourself. But let's talk about what Mr. Carter did, which was somebody was breaking into his car at 3 a.m. in the morning, and he went out to stop them. Are you allowed in Georgia to use deadly force to stop somebody from breaking into your car? Well, most folks don't know the answer to that. They don't read the law. They don't know what's going on, and they just think, well, somebody is trying to rob me or somebody's trying to get into my car. I can use deadly force to stop them. But Georgia specifically says that you can only use deadly force to stop a property crime if there's a forcible felony. Now, I'm going to use air quotes around forcible felony. And what that means is that it's specifically defined in the statute. That means that as a layperson, I think I know what a forcible felony is, but no, I don't, because the legislature has said we're going to give a specific definition. So what's a forcible felony? Of course, poor Mr. Carter at 3 a.m. when he's talking to the police has no idea what he's talking about. And the words that he uses are absolutely going to be used against him. And just so your listeners know, in Georgia, a forcible felony is any felony which involves use or threat of physical force or violence against any person, not against your car. So I'm not telling you what Mr. Carter should or should not have said, but if he said, well, he was breaking into my car, so I shot him, that's a problem. On the other hand, if he said he was breaking into my car, I stopped him, and he attacked me, whole different situation.
Or he was trying to force somebody.
Case, I'm sure, here in a little bit.
Yes, or if he was forcing somebody into that car to steal it, for example, in a kidnapping situation. So there's a completely so that we'll come back to that when we come back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Joey for 2 more segments. Going to fly by, but we do have 2 more of these cases that went horribly wrong for the individual that used force. And we'll talk with Joey Hamby, attorneys on retainer.us when we come back. Don't go away. Fascinating stuff. We'll be right back with Joey. Guys, I hope you're enjoying these conversations. They're fascinating to talk with the lawyers about because there's so much nuance in these individual cases, as Joey just pointed out, the forcible felony. And I'll just give you a heads up where we're going to go with him when we come back. Is I'll use the example of he comes out. By the way, this guy's garage was detached from his house. Does that matter? Yeah, it does under Georgia law. And he does have the right to protect that property if he believes a forcible felony is occurring or is about to occur. Let's just say, for example, he comes outside and there's 4 guys breaking into his garage. And in this particular case, this is where we'll go with Joey, as I mentioned before the break, they're dragging another neighbor into the garage to force them into his vehicle because they want to steal it to get away from the scene. That's a whole different ballgame, and we'll go there with him when we come back. And a couple other cases that went terribly wrong for the people involved. And I have a gut feeling that in each of these cases, Joey will say, shut your trap, which is the number one lesson you need to take away from this. And again, another lesson is that you are not entitled to an attorney during an investigation, ladies and gentlemen, unless you have one on hand already. That's a whole different ballgame. And won't do it this segment coming back, but I will the next. I'll read you the back of the card because it's right smack in line with what we're talking about and what Joey had already mentioned. Back in about a minute and a half.
$30.
All right, cut this out.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Back indeed inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom. And the CZ mic is all fired up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Very compelling conversations with Joey Hamby, attorneys on retainer.us. So please, please pay very, very careful attention to what we're talking about today. These incidences can not only change your life, but ruin your life. And it's not a situation you want to find yourself in. And each one of these instances are very dynamic. Joey, as you know, welcome back, my friend. Each one is a little bit different. And I as we were going to the break, I wanted to point out, and from the Fox piece, however, the use of force that is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm, this is Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, is not justified to protect property unless that person using the force reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent a forcible felony. And Joey, I use the example, maybe a guy comes outside and he sees 4 people breaking into his car, but he doesn't see anything else going on. It's a property crime. He's trying to scare him away, and he doesn't fire. Then he sees that maybe a neighbor is being forced into the car, kidnapped at gunpoint, and they're trying to steal his car. That changes the ball game, does it not?
It does. We talk about self-defense all the time, and that's the easiest way to talk about it. But really, self-defense statutes generally incorporate defense of yourself or defense of another human being. So,
Joey, we lost you there.
You see another person.
We broke up there.
That is being.
Sorry, we lost you there for just a second. Your cell phone cut out.
Sorry, are you still with me?
Yeah, you said or another person, and then you dropped. If you would continue, please.
Yes, so sorry about that. Yes, so you can defend yourself or another person, and if you feel that you or another person is an imminent risk of death or serious bodily harm, then absolutely, that is where justification kicks in. That is where you are completely justified in threatening or using deadly force.
All right, pay very careful attention to this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move to Oakland County, Michigan. This is Pontiac, just outside Detroit. Oakland County prosecutor Karen D. McDonald has charged Dayton Napton, a 24-year-old resident of White Lake, with manslaughter, which carries a 15-year minimum sentence, by the way, and assault with intent to do great bodily harm, and 2 counts felony firearm for the death of Savon Wilson, age 17, and the injury of another individual who was shot in the leg. Additionally, a 21-year-old Matthew Grenage and 4 juveniles were charged with breaking and entering for the attempted burglary of Napton's detached garage that led to the shooting. On July 8th at approximately 1 a.m., a group of suspects, including the shooting victim, reportedly broke into defendant Napton's garage. Napton then left his house with a 9mm semi-auto handgun and allegedly fired 2 shots into the garage through a windowless locked door. As the burglary suspects were fleeing, Napton allegedly fired 5 more shots. He is then alleged to have gone back inside his house, reloaded the weapon, and returned outside. Again, Wilson fled the scene with the other suspects and reportedly was not taken for medical care for approximately 30 minutes. He died from a gunshot wound. Investigators concluded Wilson was struck by one of the bullets that Napton fired through the locked door. Now, the prosecutor in this case said the right to own firearms and protect one's family and home are fundamental. Those important rights also come with profound responsibility. And they said that we believe the evidence demonstrates this defendant crossed the line by firing outside his home at fleeing persons. His actions not only took a life, but potentially endangered the surrounding community by firing his weapon into the night. This is manslaughter, punishable by up to 15 years, and another 10 years for the assault with intent to do great bodily harm, and a felony firearm by an additional 2 years. So they're just stacking up, ladies and gentlemen. What do we take away from this one, Joey?
So there are so many things in this. And first of all, I want to point out to your listeners the vast difference in laws across our nation. And so I tell folks, if you live in a particular state, please educate yourself as much as you can, because Michigan has some very, from my perspective, unique and unusual exceptions and types of self-defense laws here. But the first thing is I want to point out there are a couple of things. And in this particular article, you can tell this was based on primarily on a press release from the prosecutor's office, because they're given some very specific information that kind of backs up some of their decision making. So for one thing, they talk about a detached garage. I know that doesn't sound important to a lot of people, but it's not part of the residential structure. And I'm going to throw some words out there, and I hope this doesn't bore people or turn them off. But in self-defense law, one of the things you're talking about is the castle doctrine. Your home is your castle. This comes from English law from hundreds of years ago, and there's a word in it that's called curtilage. Curtilage means it's the definition of the property that you own and that you can restrict who comes onto your property. And there's different definitions in different states, but essentially one of the things we're talking about in Michigan is this is a detached garage, so it's not part of the residential structure. It's part of this individual's property. On the other hand, Michigan has a very interesting self-defense law. I'm going to put it that way. Coming from a pro-freedom state and a pro-Second Amendment state, I would say it's a very bad law. But in essence, Michigan doesn't impose a duty to retreat on an individual, and it does have what they call as a castle doctrine. But the reality is there are so many loopholes and exceptions in it that I'm going to tell you, I do not believe that Michigan's castle doctrine is going to apply to this homeowner. And he's going to have to fall back on Michigan's common law, which has a whole nother series of issues that he has to deal with. But you can tell from reading the article, Mark, that they got a lot of this information from the prosecutor because it says a detached garage, and then it says the individual was shot through a door without a window on it. meaning essentially they're saying, well, this individual could have just recklessly discharged a firearm through a door that he couldn't see through at people. Maybe this was a family member that was in there. So I'm just pointing out the things that they are looking at and why this is important to them. Now, there's no question that these were young criminals. They were all charged with either breaking, entering, or attempted burglary for going into this place. Obviously, up to no good. Obviously, there to commit crimes. But, there were some serious issues there. And unfortunately, poor Mr. Napton, in addition to some other issues, according to law enforcement, we don't know this, but according to law enforcement, shot through a door that he couldn't see through and then discharged rounds at individuals who were apparently fleeing. Now, in pretty much any state, if somebody is running away, if you discharge a weapon at them, that's a problem. Where that information comes from, I do not know. My guess would be from the people who claim they were running away. But I have seen shootings of somebody who was running away that you think, well, that's a bad shoot. And then the reality is, when you get a different angle, that person is turning, presenting a firearm or some other type of a risk that justifies discharging that firearm. So I'm just going to tell you, this is a very tough situation for Mr. Napton in Michigan because of their unique laws and because of the way at least the prosecutor is structuring these allegations.
Yeah, I want to kind of approach this as we get ready to go to the break from Mr. Napton's position here. I don't know him. I've not spoken to him. But it's not a stretch to believe that, he was aware of a quote-unquote disparity of force situation where there are multiple people.
Absolutely.
He's by himself. He's on his own property. He likely felt that it was justified, which is why he did what he did. And then we see people cross that line, right, where someone is shot, the threat is stopped, and the person walks over and pumps 4 more rounds into that individual. Now it goes from self-defense to murder. And guys, the takeaway from this is, Joey, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you absolutely must know the law. Go through those scenarios in your head. What if this happens to me at my house? Picture these scenarios. What if this happens to me when I'm out for dinner with my family? What if this happens to me when I'm walking through the grocery store parking lot? When we come back with Joey, we'll get some answers to those and some insight from a self-defense attorney about some of those questions. And then we're going to move on to one other case that, again, went very south for the homeowner. And we'll analyze that as we're doing here now. Fascinating conversation. Joey Hamby, Attorneys on Retainer. You can join us there, folks. Just like me, I carry a card. attorneysonretainer.us. Use the promo code AAR. Save $50. It's $35 a month. We'll be back. You gave me the 30, right?
I did.
All right, camera's up.
If you own a firearm, you know that a self-defense incident can happen anytime. That's why you need Attorneys on Retainer. They're the only self-defense program backed by real attorneys who specialize in self-defense cases. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, guys, welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me. We are, in fact, talking to Joey Hamby, a highly accomplished self-defense attorney with Attorneys on Retainer. And, of course, that's the Attorneys for Freedom law firm. And I got to tell you guys, it's compelling stuff. I had to draw a firearm back in 2002 on two individuals that were attempting to carjack a car off my bumper, and probably wouldn't have until they turned their attention toward me. I didn't have to fire a shot. And Attorneys on Retainer was not available to me at the time. And fortunately, wound up not needing one. But guys, it can change. It can go south. I've used that term tonight. It can go south on you so fast. Please be prepared. That's why I have this card in my wallet. So does my son, my daughter, and my wife. If you carry a firearm, please be paying very careful attention to what we're talking about here with Mr. Hamby, okay? This is so important. It can literally destroy your life. You do not want to go through this. You do not want to go through this. If you can avoid it at all costs, that's number one. If you can't, you had better have an attorney, because to get one after the fact is going to cost you a lot more than the $35 a month. In fact, the annual fee totaled for 12 months is less than 1 hour of a great attorney, okay? So please pay very careful attention to this. You can join us at attorneysonretainer.us. Promo code is AAR and save that $50, and it's $35 a month, and it's $25 a month if you bring the family in. Joey, welcome back, my friend. So, you know, I was talking about how this individual probably felt that this fit the bill until it no longer did. And now he's looking at 27 years of his life down the tubes.
Yes. And I want to point out a couple of things. I don't want what I said earlier to sound like I'm attacking Mr. Nafton here. Here's the reality, and this is why I kept saying this is an article based on a press release essentially from the prosecutor's office, and the facts that they put out are very selective. And with just a little tweak on those facts can be moved dramatically one way or the other. And they talk about him firing through a doorway. Well, there's no question he was firing at criminals, number one. Number two, my guess is he had a real concern that he was at danger. I'm sure this was nighttime. There were multiple individuals. I'm sure there were other things going on that caused him to believe he had to discharge his firearm. They then make a point that he was shooting at fleeing suspects. And I understand that can always be an issue, but I have seen cases, again, where you can simply say those words, but the reality is that the person was actually acting in self-defense. And then lastly, if folks are concerned about this, I would not have any hesitation defending Mr. Nafton. If he were an AOR member, he could validly assert self-defense, and we would absolutely defend him on all of these charges, vigorously asserting his right to defend himself.
That's critical information, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to, and this is we've seen a number of these types, similar cases like this over the years. We've seen, you go back 10, 12 years, the kid drunk on Halloween, showing up in a scary outfit at the wrong home, thinking he's going to a party, gets killed. People door dinging, door ditching or ding-dong ditch or whatever they're doing, get shot. In this particular case, ladies and gentlemen, this happened back on November 9th, and I don't know the disposition of this. Maybe, Joey, you do. If not, for the purposes of this conversation, it really doesn't matter yet. But fatal shooting of cleaning woman at wrong Indiana home attracts national attention. And let me just read this opening sentences. Authorities are considering whether to charge a homeowner in suburban Indianapolis who they say shot and killed a woman working as a house cleaner after she mistakenly went to the wrong address. Police officers found 32-year-old Maria Florinda Rios Perez dead just before 7 a.m. Wednesday on the front porch of a home in Whitestown, a town of about 10,000 northwest of Indianapolis. She was part of a cleaning crew that had gone to the wrong address. Now, these similar cases like this we've talked about and read about over the years, and there's so much going on with these. They're not cut and dry, Joey. They're not real simple. Homeowners might have every reason to fear what's going on. They don't know what's on the other side of that door, etc. What is our takeaway in a case like this? How do we We're in our own home. We think we're defending it. We don't know all the circumstances this person went through. But I think one of the operative words here is considering. They're considering. So this is under investigation. And this is what I always say. You're not entitled to a lawyer during an investigation, folks. Okay? Joey, take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, so a number of things here. So, again, you give me different facts, and I can give you completely different outcomes. And the fact that they're talking about authorities are considering this tells me there are facts on the ground that would give them pause to not immediately say, let's just charge this case. And I don't know if a decision has been made to charge this.
Right.
But let me just kind of paint a different picture for you, because the picture you have in the article is that a completely innocent young lady has gone and rung on a door just on the wrong doorbell, saying, hey, we're here to clean the house, need to come in. And from her perspective, I think that's 100% right. I'm not telling you this lady did anything wrong at all. But I'm going to tell you there's a homeowner who's probably being awakened or being disturbed just before 7 o'clock in the morning. It's probably barely light. This is just a couple of weeks ago. So it's probably barely light, if it's light at all. And there's some other things that are going on. Understand it was part of a crew. Well, at that point, there's probably a number of individuals milling around, maybe even going to a side gate or looking around the house or different things like that. You can see a homeowner who might look out the window saying, what's going on? Who's ringing on my doorbell? And all of a sudden sees a group of people, not one person, but a group of people coming up to the house, unidentified, not expecting anybody, and very concerned about what's going on in their house. I'm not telling you that this is a justified shooting or not a justified shooting. What I'm telling you is that even the authorities who are investigating this are saying, well, we have to give this a different look because there may be more going on here. It is not uncommon at all in these types of cases for somebody to immediately be charged. You see that in the other cases that we just talked about earlier. These folks are already charged. Something else is going on. But that's not the takeaway that I want to take. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I'm going to beat this dead horse all night long, Mark. If you look down further in the article, here's something that I want you to take away, and I hope everybody please takes this to heart. The prosecutor is going over the investigator's findings. So it's the second to last paragraph in the article. Prosecutor is going over these findings to understand what happened in the moments leading up to the shooting. That means reviewing, quote, every second, quote, of witnesses' taped interviews and doorbell footage if police bring him any, he said. Go back to that. He's going to look at every second of the taped interviews, and that would likely include the homeowner. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to keep coming back to this. You have no idea, folks, how your words are looked at, and one or two words can literally change the scope of the investigation, change the direction of the investigation. So I keep coming back to this. The safe thing to say here is, thank you very much, officer. I'm not talking with you. I want my lawyer. Because guaranteed, they're going to look at the words that homeowner said in a 911 call, said on the recorded door video, whatever it is, and they're going to look at those and try to determine what in those few seconds under enormous stress that person might have said. They're going to try to determine whether or not that's a basis to charge this person or not.
And ladies and gentlemen,
coming back to that.
The end is a great way to circle back as we close out this hour. Joey, I could go hours with you on these topics. Thank you so much for being here. We really could. It's fascinating. I have so much I want to ask you. We'll bring you back again very, very soon. Because sadly, ladies and gentlemen, these cases pop up all the time. You can find Joey. He might even be your lawyer. attorneysonretainer.us. Use the promo code AAR and take advantage of all the great discounts we're giving. When we come back, it's a classic roundtable, and I will read you the back of the card at the top of the next hour. We'll be back.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
And here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 3 of Armed American Radio's Monster Cast is now underway. The first 2 hours are in the bag. If you're just joining us, welcome in. Great to have you here. If you're rejoining us, welcome back. We appreciate it very much. You can watch us over at Facebook.com. You can watch us live there, Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. Please do. And make sure to like the page over there. Join us over there, please. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, Greg will tell you how to do that in a minute. Subscribe to us on those platforms and follow us over at X, at AARMark. Please help us out. Help us take our social media back. Welcome inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day in front of this very powerful CZ microphone, busting out on hundreds of radio stations across the nation as we speak to you live across the country today. Great to have you here, as I said. Welcome in. And, of course, we're at the Patriot Mobile Ranch, all brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Greg and Dallas, take it away. We'll go to the crew.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, we're at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And lastly, to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, guys, in that first hour or second hour of the program, we were talking with attorney Joey Hamby, and I could talk to the self-defense attorneys all day long. Ladies and gentlemen, it's fascinating. Each of these individual self-defense cases might wind up not being self-defense cases, and in all likelihood, the individuals thought they were, and thinking they were might get them in a lot of trouble. There's another story in that one we were talking about with Joey, the last story, of an 86-year-old who pled guilty. 86. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what age you are. You had better know the law. And I'm holding up my attorneys on retainer card, and you heard Joey talk about what not to do, and that was don't say anything. Let me read you this real quick, just because I promised I would, and I was unable to do that in the previous hour. If human life is in danger, 911 should be called immediately. Medical attention is needed immediately. Someone is injured, send help, is what you'll say. Provide address and end the call. Call the emergency hotline, their hotline, and it gives you the number. And it says in bold letters, do not, I don't know if you can see that right there, do not, in bold letters, make any further statements to the 911 operator, any responding officers, or anyone else. Ask to have your attorney present during any questioning and to privately call your attorney now. Available 24/7. That is phenomenal advice and can keep you out of a world of trouble. Let's go start the introduction of the crew. And by the way, that's attorneysonretainer.us, and that promo code is AAR, guys. Take advantage of this stuff, please. Ryan Petty, welcome in, my brother. How are you today, my friend, on a phone line today? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here, Mark. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, brother. Always a pleasure. We get kicking off Thanksgiving week with you guys. Brad Primo, CEO, Lead Slingers Whiskey, combat vet, and former law enforcement officer, and a longtime contributor to this program. Brad, how you doing? We love you, brother. Welcome in.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wunderbar. We have a lot to cover with you guys today, several stories. And Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. We're in the Car Firearms Group studios with you. Justin, how you doing? Fan favorite for a reason.
Doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me, buddy.
All right, guys. Let's kick off this conversation, shall we? I got a lot of stuff here I want to talk about. So let's just work from the bottom up of some of my notes. Lawmakers, this story just popped a couple days ago, 11/18. Lawmakers moved to repeal Biden gun control law, save billions in taxpayer money. And the first thing that came to my mind, Ryan, I'll start with you, is which Biden gun control law, okay? We know he weaponized every agency of government against us as law-abiding gun owners, so let's get specific here. A group of Republicans in Congress has introduced a measure that takes aim at the divisive Biden-era Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And thanks a lot for that, John Cornyn down there, who, Greg, if you recall, we were talking about a couple weeks ago when he was cornered on that, couldn't remember supporting it after he worked with Chris Murphy on it. You remember that, Greg? Unbelievable stuff. Dub, the Second Amendment. Go ahead.
Go
ahead. You're in Texas. Go ahead. Let him have it. FCC friendly, by the way.
I just want, it's typical Rhino shenanigans, and it's the usual slimy politician acting like back, 2 years ago, it was incredibly important to pass this legislation, with bipartisanship support. And now, I've got amnesia, and I can't quite remember what I signed.
I have no recollection, Senator, right? Dubbed the Second Amendment Restoration Act, a bill sponsored by U.S. Rep. Wesley Hunt. Second Amendment Restoration Act, a bill sponsored by U.S. Rep. Wesley Hunt, Republican out of where? Texas, was introduced on November 12th. While the text of the proposal isn't available yet, and I have not seen it, so I'm assuming it's still not. I could be wrong and just don't know where it is or have not yet seen it. But if we do, we'll correct that during the week. Hunt's office stresses it will repeal federal incentives for states to implement so-called red flag gun seizure laws and dial back on expansion of the federal background check system that has led to delays and extended waiting periods for legal firearm purchases. And here's what Hunt said in a statement. The Second Amendment Restoration Act reverses the dangerous provisions of the so-called Safer Communities Act, which pushed red flag laws on Texans and funded their expansion nationwide. The Constitution is crystal clear. Our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Every lawmaker who claims to stand for freedom should support this bill without hesitation. Protecting the right of Americans to defend themselves and their families is not just policy, it's principle. Ryan, stand a chance under a Trump administration?
Well, first of all, I want to say amen to what Representative Wesley Hunt said there. It is absolutely music to my ears. Look, a couple things to pop out. This second Trump administration should be all about restoring the Second Amendment, restoring our rights. If we've learned anything from the first Trump administration and the reaction from the left by putting in that feckless old man that couldn't, President Auto Pen into the White House, we need to restore our freedoms and our rights. And that goes down the list of the Bill of Rights, but high on my list, obviously, is the Second Amendment. So this would be a great step in the right direction. When I read this article, Mark, oh my gosh, $750 million? Are you kidding me?
A ton of money.
People couldn't buy eggs. Yeah, couldn't buy eggs, but we're going to pay states $750. We're going to bribe states with $750 million to try to convince them to violate your rights. Because if the states are doing it, well, it's not the federal government violating due process. I can't believe it was that much money in this bill for that kind of nonsense. And I'll say one last thing at the risk of offending all Texans. Senator Cornyn got us into this mess, Texas. The rest of the country expects you to help get us out of it.
Yeah, well said. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the bill is H.R. 6035, the Second Amendment Restoration Act of 2025, seeking to undo Biden's gun control, safer communities, bipartisan gun control nonsense. And the summary is not yet up. It's still in progress, so that's all we can tell you. Brad, does it stand a chance?
I think so. I mean, especially going into, an election year for the midterms. I mean, if Congress, if they know what's good for them, they'll support this bill because
they know what's good for them.
I don't think any of us out here are in the mood for any more, rhino shenanigans or games, especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. As much as I've supported Donald Trump, I mean, he's been a lot of sizzle and not a whole lot of steak when it comes to the Second Amendment. Now, he hasn't really hurt us, but, he hasn't really done a whole lot for us yet either. So this would be a good opportunity for him and the Republicans to really put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, I want to see the results of it. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, I'll ask you the same question. And Brad brings up a great point, getting ready to come into the midterm. So I guess I'll rephrase it to you with benefit of what we just heard from both Ryan and Brad. Do the Republicans have the stones to run on this during the midterms? And honestly, if they're smart, they will. But are they smart enough, Justin?
Well, we all know the rhinos in the Republican parties talks a good game, but when it comes down to actually passing legislation which enhances our Second Amendment rights, they've been woefully inadequate. the gains that we've had were mostly due to us winning the different cases going up to the Supreme Court. So I probably, that trend's going to continue because I don't see much improvement in these rhinos.
Yeah, very difficult time getting through the Senate, no question. It might move through the House. We will keep our eyes on it. When we come back from the break, we'll continue the conversation. We have a lot to cover with the gentlemen in the roundtable today. We're talking with Parkland father Ryan Petty, Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers. He's a combat veteran, a true American hero, and he's also a former law enforcement, and of course Justin Moon, the CEO of the Carr Firearms Group. Lots of different companies there at Carr, by the way. Carr Arms. You can check them out online, and all of our great partners, all of our great sponsors at armedamericanradio.com. We're in the Carr Firearms Group studios with you.
Tim.
We'll be back with the crew right after this. Don't go away. Shit, we're buzzing right along, ladies and gentlemen. This hour is going to whip right by. Good heavens.
Being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Indeed. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The roundtable now well underway. Segment 1 in the bag. Heading into segment 2 on a Sunday for you. Getting ready to come up on Thanksgiving, believe it or not. Time is flying right by. That means Christmas is right around the corner. That means the first of the year is right around the corner. And that means tax time's right around the corner. See how that all works out, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, well, if you run a business, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you probably just got your taxes done if you filed an extension. Anyway, it's coming. It never stops. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast, a classic AAR roundtable with the crew, continues right now. Make sure to join the National Rifle Association, please, nra.org/AAR, and visit all of our great partners. You got Christmas coming up. There's nowhere better than Bud's Gun Shop, our exclusive online retailer, to find everything for that shooter in your family or wannabe shooter in your family. Everything from ammo, apparel, gear, everything. It's all available for you. Feed your car arms. Feed your CZs. Feed them all. Every single one of them over at budsgunshop.com. They have everything you want and need everything that they have if you're a shooter. Trust me on that one. Serving over 6 million customers now, ladies and gentlemen. budsgunshop.com. Find them and all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.org. Let's go to Ryan Petty now and continue this conversation. Ryan, let me quote a little bit from this guns.com article here because it's a great segue into the next discussion, which is now moving towards Chris Murphy. But I want you to pay careful attention, guys, and listeners around the country. Take a listen to this. It passed with a modicum of GOP support. That means, small. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated the law would affect some $9.5 billion in mandated outlays in 2022 alone. Chief among these was what Ryan just mentioned, $750 million earmarked annually to incentivize states to implement red flag seizure laws. Such laws are seen by many as constitutionally suspect because of their scant due process protections. And here's the kicker for the great segue. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, BSCA, also instituted an enhanced background check process, which includes reviewing juvenile mental health records for adults less than 21 years of age seeking to purchase or transfer a firearm. The law allows the process to now take as many as 13 business days before a delay at a firearms dealer could default to proceed. For anybody else, it's 3 days, ladies and gentlemen, but there's a couple operative words here. Juvenile mental health records for adults less than 21 years of age. What's to stop them from looking at your mental health records over 21 years of age? Absolutely nothing. Let's move on to Chris Murphy now because this is a perfect place to jump. Murphy reintroduces bill to expand background checks for gun purchases. This was 2 days ago, ladies and gentlemen, Friday in the U.S. Senate. Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, has reintroduced legislation to expand background checks. The bill would force unlicensed and private gun sellers to conduct a background check prior to transferring the weapon. That's already the case in Connecticut, but not at the federal level. Murphy, ladies and gentlemen, has introduced this legislation every year since 2017. Take a listen to what he has to say. He said it's common sense that a person who can't pass a background check shouldn't be able to buy a gun. Nearly 90% of Americans, including the overwhelming majority of gun owners, see how they throw this? This is how they cheat the language, ladies and gentlemen, support universal background checks. It's just common sense that somebody who can't pass a background check shouldn't be able to buy a deadly firearm. As Trump endangers lives by getting rid of successful bipartisan programs that brought down gun violence rates, we're working to keep guns away from violent criminals and make communities safer. Our common sense legislation to expand background checks for all gun sales will spare countless communities from the terror, tragedy, and trauma of gun violence. That was from Blumenthal, his little cohort in Connecticut. A national standard for comprehensive background checks is long overdue. Of course, Ryan, it faces an uphill battle in a Republican-controlled Congress. But Ryan, I have to point out to you, and you pointed it out to me on the program this past week on Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, how many criminals are impacted by background checks?
Let me double check. Zero.
Mm-hmm. Because criminals aren't buying their guns at gun shops, ladies and gentlemen. You might get an occasional stupid criminal that tries, But folks, they're stealing your guns. That's how they get their guns. So what is it, Ryan, that Blumenthal and Murphy, and by the way, there are 42 co-sponsors on this bill, 45 co-sponsors on this bill, all of them Democrats. What's their end game here, Ryan?
Well, look, I think Brad said it a few minutes ago. They're playing to their base for the midterms, right? Not all 45 of them are up for re-election, but there's a whole battle going on in the Democratic Party right now with the old guard, the Schumer and those folks, right, on the way out, the rising sort of socialist anti-gunners like Blumenthal and Chris Murphy hope to ascend in the Senate and take over Schumer's role. This is Democratic politics in the background playing to the base and the fundraising, right? Because the fundraising on the Democratic side is just absolutely rabid gun controllers. And so he's doing what he wants to do, which is raise money and be prepared to try to take power in the Senate. And I hate to sound so cynical, but that's all this is about. He knows it's not going to pass. This is just a power play to curry favor with Democrats.
Yeah, and well said. And Brad, the reason this is so important is because Murphy is telegraphing every single session since 2017 what it is the Democrats have in store for you. I'm going to give you a real-life example. Neighbors that lived across the street from me a number of years ago, gentleman got a transfer to Connecticut, of all places. Now, I lived in Connecticut back in days gone by when it was not the way it is today, okay? He couldn't take 95% of his guns with him from Georgia. Now, if the Democrats have their way and this bill were to pass, let's just assume it did and Trump were to sign it into law, he had to leave his firearms with me or other friends and family that he was leaving behind in Georgia. Every single one of those guns would have required a background check. And I can promise you, old Bill has more guns than I do. Brad, that's what they have in store. Not only that, a fee for every single one of those guns. This is what they have in store, ladies and gentlemen, when they say universal background check. They just moved back, Brad. In order to get the guns back, I have to transfer them back to him and give him a background check. This is what they have in store for us, Brad. Does that make any sense whatsoever to you?
I mean, it does make sense if you look at it from the position of trying to deny people their rights. The idea behind background checks, one, is you have to have registration of those firearms to make background checks, have any sort of teeth to them. And then you hit upon the fees, which, the idea that all they have to do is just they can raise the fee at any time they want. I mean, right now it's $10 for I think it's what I pay, if I go to a gun store.
25 for me.
Check. But I mean, yeah, but to say there's nothing stopping it from going up, and they can raise it as much as they want to, and basically implement an unconstitutional poll tax on your rights.
You better believe it. When we come back, we're going to flip it over to Justin Moon, and I'm going to throw one more example out about that whole deal and what Brad just said about registration, because they've admitted universal background checks won't work unless they know where all your guns are to begin with. We'll explain that when we come back. Don't go away. Justin Moon's up next.
Sebastian Gorka letting you know that the Desperado Sport Fishing Crew in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and our right to bear arms. Now, back to Mark Walters.
What am I carrying today? I am carrying my car, and I'm carrying it in a crossbreed holster, ladies and gentlemen. And you can be doing the same thing, crossbreedholsters.com, crossbreedholsters.com. Make sure to check them out. They've been with us really since day one, and there's a reason for that, okay? My kid's 21. He just started carrying a firearm religiously every day. He goes nowhere without his gun. Every single time he's carrying his gun, it's in a crossbreed. There's a reason for that, because you can carry a really large gun if you want to in a super tuck holster, and the weight just disappears. You don't even know you have it on you. Not enough time to go into all those details, but let me just tell you, crossbreedholsters.com is the real deal. It is the most copied holster in America for a reason, okay? So keep that, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Crossbreedholsters.com. Welcome back to the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters in front of this very powerful CZ microphone at the Patriot Mobile Ranch, and you too can have a Patriot Mobile phone like I do, patriotmobile.com/AAR. Please take advantage of these great deals. Help us stay on the airwaves another 17 years. It's tough out there right now, ladies and gentlemen. We need your support. The industry needs your support, and Patriot Mobile is the real deal. They are fighting for your rights as a corporation, as part of their corporate mission every single day. And the easiest way to support them is move a phone over. It's that simple. It takes 20 minutes, move a line. And I know you're going to love it, and you're going to want to move the rest of your lines, and they give you plenty of incentives to do that. patriotmobile.com/AAR. Take advantage of it. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. One thing I want to point out on this Murphy and Blumenthal kick for background checks, and Brad brought it up, and I'm glad that he did. These don't work without registration. Obama's own Justice Department said the same thing. Here's why. Justin, if my neighbor Bill, when he moved to Connecticut, had left all of his guns with me and there was universal background checks in place, you know what I would have done about it? I would have said, give me a break. Just give me your guns. I'll stick them in the safe. No one would know, because there's no such thing as registration. In order for Murphy's little Bill to be successful, Justin, he knows it, you know it, I know it, Armed American Radio listeners know it. And folks, if you didn't know it before, you're going to hear it right now. They have no way of knowing that Bill left me his firearms unless they know how many firearms Bill has before he leaves them to me, Justin. And that's the crux of the matter right there, because what they will do next is say, well, you know what, guys, this was a great first step, but we need registration, universal registration, because we don't know if people are actually abiding by the background check, universal background check, new law. Justin, am I right about that, or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, if it's a right, you shouldn't have to ask for permission, and that's the bottom line. So, the Constitution says what it says. The second right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Well, wait, I have it tattooed on my arm. I think you missed something. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed as long as a universal background check is conducted and Bill gets permission from the state to leave his guns with Mark. There it is. You left that part out, Justin. Did you do that intentionally?
I certainly did not, because it's not there.
You're right. It's not there, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the whole point. Ryan, I'll give you the final word on that. But it is very true. We know that to be the case.
Their goal is registration and control of firearms. That's look, Brad hit the nail on the head. That's the ultimate goal. They want to know who has guns, who has which guns, who has how many guns, and then they're going to, when they implement their social credit score concepts, which they tried to get done under the Biden administration, anybody that owns a gun or multiple guns is going to get that bad social credit score and be shunned in polite society, as they say. So that's ultimately the goal. That's the play. We just have to frustrate the play so they never can get there.
Yeah, and guys, look, if the wrong thing happens in the midterms, the wrong thing happens in 2028, Brad, we're staring down the barrel, pun intended, of what Virginia is looking at right now. We're going to cover Virginia in the next segment, but it is scary stuff, because we know this is what they want. They are telegraphing that to us every single day, and those of you that are listening in Virginia know exactly what I'm talking about right now, because you're about to become Californicated with your gun laws. It's going to happen. It is inevitable. It is going to happen. But Brad, when we know they know, and they know we know, they know, it still doesn't stop them. Did you follow that?
Oh, yeah, of course it's not going to stop them. They don't care. I mean, that's the thing. What they care about is appeasing their far left extreme base that has a propensity for irrational violence in our streets, and that's what they listen to. And of course, they have some donors that sympathize with their violent mobs that they unleash upon us every couple of years, and they don't get their way. And the ultimate goal is firearms confiscation, with the exception of their violent mobs, to make sure that their own brown shirts have the guns and we don't. Fact of the matter is that you can bet that if they get control of the Senate, they're going to do away with the filibuster. If they get control of Congress, they're going to do away with the filibuster. If they get the presidency, and they do away with the filibuster, they're going to pack the court. They're going to admit extra states. They're going to do everything they can to make this a one-party country, and then they're just going to go absolutely nuts on our rights. You can bank on it.
Well, Corporal Q-Ball is already saying, now he's trying to backtrack a little bit, but he's already saying that they need to pack the courts, that they need to end the filibuster, that they need to add a few states. And if they do that, ladies and gentlemen, that nightmare scenario could come true, and that is what they want to do. Justin, Adina, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm butchering the name for those of you in Minnesota that are listening on 1280 The Patriot and a number of other stations. I'll call it Adina. Adina gun control ordinance vote put on hold after council discussion. Now, where I'm going with this, St. Paul, Minneapolis, just passed their gun control ordinance up there in violation of state preemption laws. They know they can't put it into effect because the state law says they can't. But they do it anyway, as you just heard Brad say. Adina, Minnesota, has decided not to do it yet, even though they're drafting gun bans in the aftermath of the August 27th mass shooting at Annunciation Church and School in Minneapolis. However, even if cities draft and pass gun legislation, according to this local Fox 9 report, it cannot be enforced under Minnesota state law. Now, one of their city attorneys raised the cackles on this and said until state law is changed, the council is not in a position to direct police to enforce an ordinance. We were all shattered by what happened at Annunciation on August 27th. We know there are people on both sides of the issue. We weren't going to pass anything that our police department couldn't legally enforce or was something that could make their conduct illegal. So at least they saw the light there. Now, let's take that and segue over to Florida, because Justin, Florida Democrats, and this is coming out of the Osceola News-Gazette on Friday, Florida Democrats push long odds gun control measures after open carry law takes effect, knowing damn good and well, Justin, that it isn't going to take effect. But they do it anyway. Why don't they move on to something else?
Well, Mark, the Democrats are always going to try to grab your guns because they can't have law-abiding citizens having guns to defend themselves from their tyranny.
But there is a bigger question here, though, and it's a philosophical one. And we can't get into the heads of the Democrats. We know what they're all about. We know they're going to continue to push this nonsense. And Ryan, I'll take it over to you. You heard what Justin said. He's absolutely spot on about that. But you're in Florida. You know this isn't going to pass. It's not even going to come out of committee. Yet they continue to do this time after time after time after time after time after time after time. And I hate to ask this redundant question, but what is their end game here? They know it won't pass. It doesn't matter to them. Shouldn't they be putting their efforts into things they know that they can work with on a truly bipartisan level? About 20 seconds and we'll go to the break.
Look, Justin's right. Their worldview does not include a world where conservatives can have guns, right? They only want the government to have guns and their preferred goons, as Brad was saying. I don't think he used the word goons, but I'll use goons.
I'll use
That's
it. I
what
like
they
it.
want. Number two, this is all about fundraising and getting out the vote of their base. They have to do this formative political nonsense because they want to raise money and they want to get out the vote. That's why they do it.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation, and we'll go to Virginia as well. Don't go away. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues. One more segment to go, guys, on a Sunday. We'll be right back.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, guys, you heard Joey Hamby in the previous hour. Just do it. It's $35 a month. Biggest no-brainer we've ever had on the show as a sponsor. Just do it. Attorneysonretainer.us. Use the promo code AAR. Have an attorney in your hip pocket. God forbid you need them. You're going to want them, okay? It's that simple. And you'll have a team, if you have to go to trial, you'll have a team of 4 attorneys working on you and your case only. And it will never be more than the $35 a month for 4 attorneys. That's thousands of dollars an hour in legal bills, ladies and gentlemen. Please, please, please take advantage of this. I beg you to do that, okay? And you can visit all of our great partners. You can find me. That's attorneysonretainer.us. Use the promo code AAR. You can find all of our great partners, Emerson Knives, Heaven's Harvest, AmmoLand, MyPillow.com. Please support them. It's a great time to be buying great products over there from Mike, MyPillow.com/AAR. Take advantage of all the great discounts. And one I can't leave out, Goat Guns, GoatGuns.com. This is the best time of year to be buying the gun owner and the fanatic in your household, yourself included, a really cool goat gun to put it under the tree. Buy a bunch of them. They are so much fun. I've got a whole rack of them over here sitting in the studio. They got me in trouble on YouTube for putting them together during a live show a few weeks ago. Got me suspended until they realized, okay, he's all right. They're toys. GoatGuns.com, ladies and gentlemen, and tell them we sent you, please. GoatGuns.com. Patriots Relief, Crossbreed Holsters, Centerfire Digital, Patriot Mobile, Car Arms, Defender Coffee, X Insurance, CZ, Daniel Defense, the National Rifle Association. They're all there for you at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Brad, I'm going to move over to you, and I want to point out that Ryan had just mentioned that they don't want conservatives to own guns, and I have to go here because it's just a perfect segue, and that is a story that I covered in the first hour of the program, and that's Raphael Warnock, who happens to be my great senator from the state of Georgia, although he doesn't represent me. I don't even care that he exists, to be honest with you. Dem senator spent whopping $360K in 9 months on private security, despite history of gun control activism. And 2 years ago, his total is pushing now close to or over $1 million on his own private-ass security for himself, but not for us, Brad. So I think, Ryan, you are correct in your assessment. And Brad, I just wanted to get your take on that before we push it over to Virginia real fast.
Yeah, let's not get it confused. I mean, the Democrats don't actually have a problem with guns. They're totally okay with their people having guns. They're totally okay with the state having guns, the government having guns to send after people like us. They don't want us having guns because then that kind of evens things up. So, don't think the Democrats are anti-gun. They're just anti-us
your guns.
having guns. That's all it is.
They're anti-your guns. Let's move it over to Virginia. I'll start with you, Justin. Democrats are ready to unleash an onslaught. Cam Edwards over at BearingArms.com, our good friend, commented here in his piece just a couple days ago, what can we expect to see this week? It's possible that Democrats will hold off on introducing their onslaught of anti-gun legislation until we're closer to the session's start for tactical purposes, i.e., to try to keep gun owners from mobilizing and restarting the Second Amendment sanctuary movement. But before the 2026 session is gavelled in, we're definitely going to see a ban on so-called assault weapons. In fact, quoting from Cam, meaning Cam, expects several different versions of an assault weapon ban with varying components will be introduced. There are a lot of rumors floating around that one bill won't have any exceptions for current owners who would be forced to turn their guns in, remove them from the state, or risk criminal charges. Tim Anderson says this about Virginia. Let me put it in plain English for every gun owner in Virginia. The Democrats' last assault firearm bill didn't just target rifles, Justin. It went after pistols that use magazines holding more than 10 rounds, which includes some of the most common handguns in America. Justin, they're getting ready to pass whatever they want in Virginia. And I'm going to say that you probably agree with me that Americans had better be paying very careful attention to what's getting ready to unload in Virginia, correct?
Yeah, I think Virginia's going to be in for a wild ride when it comes to anti-gun legislation. But if the Supreme Court takes up the bill coming up on the quote-unquote assault weapons, they may have their bill knocked down before you even get started.
We can only hope that's the case, Justin. We can only hope that's the case. Ryan Petty, I am hopeful. We've talked about it before, but I'm hopeful that Justin is right about that. We have a very good case. We've been talking a lot about Connecticut, the Connecticut case. I am hopeful that the Supreme Court justices are very well aware of what's going on in Virginia and that this is absolutely a prime opportunity to take one of these cases. I might be wishful thinking. We don't know. We can't get inside the court's head. But Kavanaugh did signal, Ryan, that we're going to get one of these cases either this session or next. I'm hopeful it's the Connecticut case. Of course, I was hopeful it was the Fourth Circuit case last year as well, and that didn't turn out to be the case. But can we win this? Will they take one of these cases finally, maybe the Connecticut case, and put a stop to this madness?
I can only hope so, and I understand. Again, I'm not a student of the court, but I understand they've been holding off for the right case. Hopefully, this is the right one that they can take and go forward and actually put some of this stuff to bed, so we get rid of the circuit splits and they send a signal once and for all to Congress and everywhere else that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The Bill of Rights is and must be taken seriously. And it should be read in the historical context in which it was written. And shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. So we can hope that this is the right case for them to make that point. Two quick comments I want to make. Virginia should be a warning sign to other states. When you elect Democrats, rabid anti-gun Democrats, you're going to see an onslaught of legislation. And it's the same thing at the federal level, the Chris Murphy rules. What Chris Murphy wants for America is what he has in Connecticut. What, Virginia Democrats are going to do to Virginia, Democrats want every other state to adopt. So let these be a warning to everyone. Get out and vote. Your rights depend on it.
And it's too late in Virginia now. TDS, overwhelmed Virginia, Brad. What's your recommendation to Virginia residents? Not just what you know, but what you've heard so far in this conversation and what we just talked about.
Man, I don't know what the recommendation would be. I mean, when I think of Virginians, when I think of Virginians, I think about their former governor, Ralph Northam. If you remember, he had that famous picture where he couldn't remember he was the guy in blackface, the guy who dressed up as a Klansman. And they didn't care. They were totally okay with it because, he said the right things and was in favor of some pretty despicable stuff. So, your Northern Virginian Democrats are easily some of the most despicable people that we have in this country that give Californians a run for their money. So, if you live anywhere else in Virginia, I would just say, just refuse to comply. They showed a lot of backbone when they have their lobbying day. And they showed a lot of backbone a few years ago. And, do it again. Don't give up. But just understand that those people who live in Northern Virginia are not your friends, are not your neighbors, and they are your enemies.
Yeah, and Justin, I'll close out with you. The Second Amendment sanctuary movement in Virginia is getting ready to be put on steroids again. And hopefully it winds up with the same success it had before. I think you'd agree with that, right? I'll let you close us out.
Well, absolutely. Virginians, that's the birthplace of our nation, basically, and I think they're going to stand up for the gun rights because they've been through one civil war.
Yeah, and here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard Brad say, and I'm sure the panel would agree. You're going to be forced in Virginia to make very difficult decisions, and that really is going to hinge on whether or not you comply with what we know is coming. And I feel sorry for you. It's about all I can leave it at. Get active and fight it. Fight it through the Second Amendment sanctuary movement. Brad Primo, thank you for being here. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. We're in the Car Firearms Group studios. Thank you for being here. And Parkland Father Ryan Petty. We appreciate you and all of your input, all of you. We're going to get up and do it again tomorrow, folks, because they don't want us to. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
Okay, guys, thanks for being here. Appreciate it very much. That 3 hours whipped right by. And it will be tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time before you can blink just like that. So stay safe. Enjoy what's left of your day. We appreciate you being here very much. Please support all of our sponsors. Find them all at armedamericanradio.com. We need your support. They need your support. And just in case nobody's told you this today, I love you. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow, guys. Thanks for